at the market median. So I think some of those pieces, keep coming up. Also in terms of most of them keep talking about, primary focus is always on the guaranteed cash. And it's a similar industry that currently is being looked at. However, increasingly that we are seeing that, otherwise every organization, when they do a benchmarking survey, will have a fixed list of 8 companies and will do the benchmarking, and, the client will be happy and we come back after a year. I think that has changed. More and more organizations are saying, earlier I used to compare, my talent market was only from these 8 companies, 10 companies. Today it is 20 companies across different industries. So show me, how the pay ranges are. So I think it is important to be increasingly aware that our talent marketplace is kind of going through some kind of a reject. This is a quick view. I know this slide, people are interested in to know, saying that what kind of a salary increments are being projected. This was from our last year survey. Our survey usually gets published by end of November or mid-November. So this is last year results with the projections of 2025. So just a call out over there. I think typically if you look at here in India from an all industry point of view, it has been roughly the median compensation increase have been in the range of 8 to 9.4% is what we have seen. 2021, because it was, immediately after COVID, had seen a more cautious approach, and then it has been going steady. This year, again, it's a mixed response. Some of the organizations which are more dependent on the local market, it is business as usual. Some of the, companies which are going through, some huge transformations because of factors which are beyond their control, are revisiting this. But I think what is good to understand is that, India per se, inflation has been, it's not something which is, you can't plan for. So you can plan for the inflation side of it. And over and above the inflation, what kind of an increment percentages are you looking at needs to be based on your industry realities, what is your target talent marketplace, and so on. So I think that is something which is, more important. Our latest results for this will get released by mid-November. And that's something when we'll get the updated numbers as well as projections for 2026. Moving on, and this is something which, while the slide heading says it's a new age tech organization, but this is something which we have seen a reality across different organizations, saying that, how you are structuring your different elements of rewards, be it the fixed compensation, the variable pay, if you are giving ESOPs or long-term incentives, or some kind of a benefits, also keeps changing as you mature as an organization, basis what your HR realities are. So, in the initial stage, maybe you may not be a very cash-rich organization. So you would like to give maybe, a more focus on a fixed compensation and then focus on an ESOP plan because, in future, the organization is going to grow big. In the second category, when you have found where talent attraction is a big place, so you would like to ensure that, you have the right kind of a pay compensation. Maybe your HR processes have evolved. You now have a good performance management system in place, and thereby you are also able to introduce an annual variable pay. And then, because if you don't have a good performance management system, we need not even talk about an annual variable pay. So I think apart from what kind of a shifts we are largely seeing, it is also, organizations, how they are going through some of the shifts internally, across. And see, what is important to understand is that earlier, this kind of moving from one stage to the other stage will possibly take 3 to 5 years. So this kind of a timeline for an organization you may have seen over 20 years or 25 years. Now, for some organization, from one stage to the other, you may be able to make that jump even within a year, depending upon which industry. So things are changing so fast, while for others it may not be. So how quickly or how agile are you in terms of able to kind of, stack up your compensation is something which is very, very important. So any practice that you have, basically you cannot get too attached to it. You should be able to change it, is what we say. And then we have a little bit in terms of the industry segmentation. Should we? Yeah. So, yeah, I think we'll just skim through some of these slides and then maybe open up more from a questions point of view. Please feel free to ask, if there are any questions. So essentially what it talks about, I will just quickly summarize over here. See what, and we spoke about, what kind of different industries are we hiring talent from. So this is a very interesting slide saying that, within the technology industry itself, depending upon whether you are hiring from an IT services organization, an engineering design services, a startup, internet e-commerce startup, or an IT product company, or someone from the core auto, the P1, P2, P3 are nothing but the Mercer grade hierarchy. So essentially what it says is, for the same levels, the pay difference can be 2x, in some cases can be 3x also, right? But you may actually have to hire from both kind of a subsegment, for some of your roles. So in that sense, we spoke about how much important it is to have a pay equity in place, but whether it is a practical, depending upon from where you're hiring, that's something to be debated. Or you take a conscious call basis saying that, okay, for some of my niche roles, this is where I'm doing a targeted hiring. Otherwise, my en masse hiring is going to be from here on. So I think some of those very informed decisions needs to be taken. This is more about, the variable pay, and maybe we'll move this. Yeah, this is more about the long-term incentives. That this is something which we are seeing increasingly organizations are using today across India. So in terms of, having different kind of plans, be it in earlier, it used to be limited only for the top leadership level. Now if we are talking about ESOPs and others, at times some of the other critical role holders are also getting this. So the prevalence is increasing. And while we talk about, rewards, and every time the cash is king, I think what is also important is that the training and skill development, what kind of health benefits and so on are you giving. So benefits, see, one piece, and maybe I'll kind of close with that, right? So saying is that, when we are talking about rewards, many a times it gets limited only from a cash compensation point of view. But what is very, very important is in terms of, how are you structuring your benefits programs, right? Because benefits is also something which is very, very important in your overall design of rewards. See, because from an experience point of view, the kind of compensation that you get has a more contractual element, but the experience that you get is primarily comes from the benefit. We were talking with an organization which spoke about no matter, and it was for their factory kind of a setup, no matter what we introduce as new pay plans or new insurance program, what gets talked about always is the entity level picnic of 100 people going together with their families is something which is more cherished by an organization. So I think we will have to keep thinking about it, saying that everything need not be only just cash or going on increasing it from an annual increment or like Sir said earlier, in the budgeting cycles and so on. Some of these other pieces also create, other kind of benefits also create a lot of stickiness. So I think that's also something which is very, very important when we are talking about, and we are seeing quite a bit of a shift happening in the benefit space that you are actually rewarding to employees. Yeah. Which one? Yeah.
Thank you, Deva. So while we were actually talking about benefits of late, if we look at the previous slide also, then Deva was talking about, cash is an important element, but organizations are looking beyond. While cash remains the king, organizations are looking at benefits that our employees expect benefits that are that typically is not at standard benefits program, that is for all, across employee levels, but there is a lot of, the question is, what is there, what is in it for me? Now an organization cannot decide individual specific benefit program for every single employee. What they look at is they create different personas, they create different generations, classify different generations in the organization and ensure that what actually helps that particular generation, what is the ask at what life stage that particular employee is, and then that's how they create benefits, ensuring that the utilization is at the max at the best. That has been that has been the ask, and that's where organizations are making a shift. This is typically, while Deba has already covered it, this is typically on the benefits piece, an important one. I think post COVID, immediately benefit was one of the important elements when you looked at overall employee contract. A lot of changes happened in health piece, employee health, different kind of programs, especially on the medical health insurance, the coverage, the overall critical illnesses that actually got covered. Having said that, there are organizations that actually focused a lot on the mental health also, right? Ensured there is a special focus on the mental health also, and there are investments on that piece. We spoke about it, which is typically looking at creating different personas depending on the age group or depending on the generation that you actually belong to, and ensuring that you have something for every single generation so that people actually get the maximum out of it. So for example, if you have baby boomers in the organization, which is very less number that is expected to be in the organization, the expectations would be about a retirement program, about a continued health benefit program, and where you have somebody who's just out of the college, maybe health insurance, maybe retirals will not be the focus, but it will be a lot about experiencing. It will be a lot about, when we talk about health insurance, it will be a lot about, if I have a global health insurance, if I'm traveling and I would want to travel for the next 5 years, will my health actually get covered? Again, focus on the personal development, on the career development. Do I have multiple opportunities within this organization where I can make a lot of investments on skill development, on higher education in this particular organization? So that's how organizations plan for benefit programs. So this is largely to do with a lot of this data actually came from the white collar workforce. But we have been very closely working with a lot of organizations and helping them on their blue collar, workforce, especially in Chennai also. And you will be surprised that the expectations are no different, right? The kind of expectations that you have here, right from the talent planning, when I talk about, identifying people with particular skills, differentiating people on particular skills at blue collar level also, and expectations in terms of benefits, and expectations, HR leaders facing challenges when it comes to retaining blue collar workforce, I think is higher than it is for the white collar workforce, because a lot of shift that has happened in the way we look at work, in the availability of knowledge, in the availability of information and data that we have. People actually wanting to look at blue collar jobs as short term interim jobs. They want to use that as a tool, as a platform, and then grow on. So you will see similar talent challenges in blue collar and white collar as well. I think, yes, that brings us to the end of it. Anything else in your mind? Yeah, we can take questions now. Yeah, we have this last slide, which actually was on key takeaways. More or less, this is also covered.
So the question which is displayed, shall I answer that or? Okay. Okay. Sure. I'll read out the question. People are okay. So I think the question is how can organizations redesign long-term incentive plans to align with purpose-driven goals by integrating social and environmental outcomes along with financial metrics? I think this is something which is very, very interesting. And we also spoke about how a lot of focus is also in terms of the ESG metrics and so on, right? Now, let me take an example. See, typically, if you have a long-term incentives, we are increasingly seeing that, long-term incentives which vest based on future performance is something which is increasingly growing here in India. See, our data says that, earlier if the prevalence was around 18%, that has increased to 42% as per the Mercer data. So essentially, any kind of a long-term incentive plan which in future will vest provided you achieve those future performance. Now, in those future performance, what you can do is you can look at cumulative targets. So let's say, for example, you want to reduce your carbon footprint by a certain percentage. While you may have some kind of an operational target for the year, we know that's something which is not possible to be able to deliver in a year. So what you do is you take a cumulative target of, let's say, by in 3 years time I will reduce my carbon footprint by so much, and you keep a weightage. So typically if we look at it, the weightage today is not much, but we have seen organizations going up to maybe a 15 to a 20%. Or it could be something which is more sustainable from an organization point of view. So for example, if your revenue mix today is like 80% US and 20% rest of the world, organizations are consciously taking a call saying that, okay, I will move to possibly a 60-40 ratio in 3 years time. And you link your long-term incentives. So it's very much possible. This is, how you take that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yes, we have worked with clients like Misho and Nika. And how does personalization of rewards evolve across generations and company life cycles? See, I would say it definitely evolves across company life cycles quite significantly, right? So that's something which we have seen. So earlier, for example, people would hire talent at whatever price they were available. Over a period, after 3 years, 4 years, they will focus more on return on investment. They will have their pay ranges built and say that, okay, for my hiring, I need to stick with my pay range, right? Which possibly earlier was not there. So some of those policies get matured across the business cycle. Even like, for some of the, like Nika, for an example, went through an IPO. The kind of an incentive plan they had pre-IPO and post-IPO, and we also worked with them very, very closely, is very different. Because, your as leaders, what you plan to achieve, before going for their value unlock and after a value unlock, so that they remains with you and ensures that it becomes a sustainable organization are very, very different. So that will change. In terms of personalization of rewards, while we talk quite a bit about it, there is some lot of flexibility given in benefits. Like let's say whether you want to take a family floater in insurance or you would rather take a gym membership. Some of those flexibility in terms of the benefits, what we call as personalization of rewards, is something which we have seen.
Okay, so this is on how should, okay, let me read it out. As automation and digital transformation reshape skill needs, how should organizations rethink pay models and reward continuous learning and adaptability? I think this is where pay for skills comes in place. right? When you actually hire people, or when there is a demand to hire people on with different skills, with specialized skills, with niche skills. So that is where the differentiation is important, and you need to bring in. So if you recall, Deba had one slide which actually talked about, they were all engineers, multiple industries. She's the data had multiple industries, and it was data for multiple levels. So all for multiple sectors, all of those people were engineers, right? All of them had done engineering in background, but they came with different skill sets. So that is where you see they were on different salaries. There were two levels. There were some subject matter expert levels at P5 and P4. That's where you see the higher differentiation. So that is where you need to bring in the difference when you have people on differentiated skills. I think all of us can take it. Let me. In a post-pandemic AI augmented world, how can organizations redefine total rewards to resonate with Gen Z and multi-generational employees alike? I think we have spoken about it in our deck, right? First thing, when we are talking about total rewards, we are not only talking about cash compensation, we are also talking about giving employees or giving members that experience. So we are talking about cash component, we are talking about different elements of cash which they were mentioned. We are also talking about possibility of investing your, giving you that exposure, investing in your career enhancement, career development, giving you an opportunity to work on that platform and to develop your network, which can help you grow your skill set, grow your skills, and uplift your your work profile. So that is what you can do. And when it comes to benefits, definitely a lot of personalized benefits. We have a benefit program that actually addresses Gen Z. When I say it addresses Gen Z, it has an insurance program that actually focuses on Gen Z. It takes care of your interests beyond work, right? For example, if you have a particular hobby, the organization facilitates you, or it funds you in a form where you can actually pursue that hobby beyond work, post work. So that's how you look at it. Deba, maybe you can add.
Junaid, if you move, before you move to the next question, just one point which I would like to address, and because I see a lot of youngsters also, see, I think it's also important to have always understand that it's a two-way bridge, right? So while we are saying that, okay, what is it that organization can modify, adapt, I think it's also very important to internalize and say that, what extra can I give to the organization? I think some thought needs to go into that also. I know it's a, somebody may not like me for that answer, but I think it's very, very important to also ask that question that, what differentiated things can I give to that organization?
So again, there's a question addressed to me which said that how you lead multiple salary surveys. How can HR teams leverage market intelligence more effectively to make agile and evidence-based pay decisions in volatile markets? I think you have seen that. So when in one of our slides, we spoke about the increment numbers. So when we talk about 10% increment, we tell you, what the market mood is or what the trend can be. But at the same time, you need to know your business. You need to know whether the skills that you have, are they going to be there in demand? The workforce that you have with the particular skill set, are you going to need the same for the next few years? Are you finding it very difficult to hire and retain it? And then you can actually make decisions, not blindly take 10% or 9% that we say, but there has to be a lot of internal information that you should actually use, a lot of business knowledge and business information that you should actually use to ensure that you stay competitive.
Yeah. So I think, post acquisition or any kind of a post merger integration, what we have seen across most organizations, unless it's a hostile takeover, that's a very different context. It's typically about saying that, okay, what is it as an organization I stand for, and what I would like to give my employees across whatever is the merged entity and all. So I think some of them have very, very especially, like, let's say, for example, we have seen organization who had a 3 lakh kind of a coverage and another one had a 5 lakh coverage. They were very particular that this is something as an organization we believe in. So from year one itself, I will move them to a 5 lakh coverage, right? Others, can be something which is more about, having a differentiated pay plan, or an incentive plan. There it may be about, okay, now aligned to my revised organization structure. I may not be able to, continue with that kind of an incentive plan. So that gets stopped till the org structure kind of gets realigned and a new plan emerges. So it depends on the organization. But what we have seen is in most cases, it is about, the intent part of it, where if the intent is that we need to be just to the employee, that usually gets taken care of. I think this question, if one of you, sir, can answer this, in terms of how our KPIs evolving.
For any organization, business impact is important. So at the end of the day, it's a profit. So KPI are the most important factors. You call it KPI or KRA or whatever. So still that concept is there and evolving further, and not a weightage given into the KPI as well. So moving that, okay, it's very important that organizational objectives are set, then the department objectives are set, then from there the individual objectives are set. So that is the model we are following, and every industry is almost following the same. So cumulative of the individual's achievement is the organizational achievement. Then only the business will run and there is a profitability. So whatever the change comes, still this is going. Maybe the concept of or the importance or the view of the KPIs are changing, but the concept remains same.
I have one question. I'm Rajesh here. I am the part of Global Recruitments and Diligent Global, which is based out of Hyderabad. There's one common thread, I'm fine in attracting and retaining talent. A big challenge has been this 90 days of notice period. How do you see this? Is it a career breaker or a blocker for the people? Because a lot of big companies have this as a clause that they don't allow the people to grow. Why can't, we give that as a leeway and have it as 30 days? I feel it's no brainer, having somebody inside the system for 90 days. If the guy is about to leave, it also helps in attracting talent. It also helps, when you talk about those contracts, papers being reworked. And today we are getting into a space where it's more gig and consulting. So when we are into that space and when we are talking to Gen Z and all that, and where somebody mentioned about employment not lasting more than a year today, that's been the trend. So I think this change should, come in handy to a lot of, people. So I would like to throw this to the audience out there. Anybody can answer this. Giving away the 90 days and reducing it to 30 days. I think that will be a game changer. Yeah.
There cannot be a generic answer to it. It depends on the industry you work with. Sometimes when an individual works on a particular project and based on which we have signed a contract with the client, somebody cannot just say that I want to quit and leave me within 30 days. The business is at stake with the client for the company. So it can be a case-to-case basis. There can be an area where the employee is not going to contribute anything by being there for 90 days. Many of the companies do take a decision to relieve them within 30 days also. Depends on the context. It cannot be a generic procedure. But there are many companies do have an offer that if you're willing to pay back the 33 months notice pay, they're also relieving in such cases. I mean, I'm representing a traditional manufacturing industry. How does it apply to an IT or other industry? Yeah, so that's what. So for the IT industries, I think.
I think fair question, and we also keep getting this question quite. See, again, like Sir mentioned, it varies from industry to industry, and see, there are both two sides of the coin. That one, like in markets like US and all, where it is employment at will, the notice period may not be there. It's just maybe only 15 days, right? And there, in fact, organizations really struggle because, in 15 days, are you able to actually hand over or so on? So in fact, I asked this question in my first organization to our CHRO, saying that, why should it be 90 days? Because at that point in time, only financial services had a 90 days. Others were still at a 60-30 kind of a thing. So he said that, you are asking this because it's a booming market today. But do you know this 90 days also protects the employee? And which is so true today, because in a scenario where there is a layoff happening, and in the India context where there is no strong employment, I'm so pardon me for this, but not very strong employment laws in place, it's that 90 days notice period which gives you that kind of a cushion in case of a forced exit which happens. So I think while we are talking on the other side of it, and we are seeing that increasingly, in my view, it's still a balanced piece. Yes, temporarily, attracting talent becomes a challenge. Definitely, we also face that. We give an offer letter to the candidate after 90 days. You can imagine when that person does not join. Right. So today morning only with Junaid, we were talking. I think one person joined his team, after 8 months, Junaid, or after a year? One position we could close after a year. So. It's not possible. Depends upon the.
See, I think you have to, there are, when you say layoffs, and especially how will you actually grow in manufacturing sector? When we talk about manufacturing, manufacturing has been one of the sectors, though it's traditional here, but it is perceived as a sector that has vanilla skills, that does not have very niche skills, or anybody can do that job. That's changing actually. Manufacturing, in today's manufacturing, we are talking about automation, we are talking about dark factories, we are talking about skills that are at par with technical skills, at par with technology. So the first thing is that you have to be highly skilled or rightly skilled, and you will actually find those opportunities in manufacturing, because a lot is happening in manufacturing. You will see a lot of manufacturing zones, a lot of organizations setting up their operations here in India. So I will not say you will have to be highly skilled. I'll say you will have to be rightly skilled to find an opportunity. Yes, organizations take this opportunity to right size, when there is a global theme, or when there is basically a when there's a talk going on, or when there are not so very good times and people are laying off, some organizations use that as an opportunity to right size, but you have to be rightly skilled to find opportunities. These are very subjective questions now.
No, I was saying that, top three can vary from company to company. But yes, I think affordability to pay, and what is the loss in case you keep that position open, or, what's the risk of losing that employee or not being able to attract the right talent. So I think these two are the prima facie factors. Others can be different basis the industry. And like I said, in India, thankfully, at least last 10 years, the inflation has been pretty steady. So that's not something India Corp is much thinking about today.